Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to this week's live training. As normal, just coming in to do a quick sound and audio check first. If you can hear us, okay, just give us a hello in the chat box and we'll get started in just a few minutes.
Hi, Robert. You right, old boy?
Yeah, hi, Tony. Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Very good.
Awesome.
Hi, Julia.
Again, if you're just coming in, just give us a hello in the chat box. Let us know that you can see and hear us okay. Don, Mike, you okay? Say hello as well, just to make sure they can hear you.
Afternoon, good morning. Bye all.
Perfect. Awesome. So it is Thursday, 19th of January, now 3 minutes past 3 UK time. Welcome to this week's training. It's called How I Generated 30 plus meetings and 90K in revenue with just 2 exhibitions. We're going to be sort of interviewing Mike Meyrick to find out how he got those exact results. So yeah, let's dive into anything you want to add sort of as an intro before we...
No, I think I say no, then I say something. The pandemic came and we all sort of adjusted to not going out and about and eyeballing our clients and the candidates. And it's got its benefits, but undoubtedly there is some benefit to meeting your clients and candidates in person. And it's not always effective to do it though, isn't it? If you live in the middle, let's say the middle of the UK, and you've got to get down to London, it's probably about an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. So there's 3 hours for one meeting. There are a lot of benefits of doing things via Zoom and telephone or whatever. But the thing with exhibitions, if your target markets are all going to be in one location, I think you'd be crazy not to be attending, as Mike's going to demonstrate, because it's going to one destination and to meet your potential clients. And we often say this, that you should be hanging out where your potential clients are hanging out. You should be posting where your potential clients and candidates are hanging out. So I think it's going to be really useful of some of the things that you can do so that you can get more meetings, more eyeballs with potential clients who can give you business. And when Mike gives you sort of return he got, no doubt he's going to share with us as we go along. There's a lot for all of us to learn, Drew and myself included. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, Mike.
Thank you. Is this do you want me to just talk through how we structure this, or did you want to do this as a kind of Q&A basis? Or shall I just rabbit on and you can interject when you see fit?
Yeah, the problem with that is you've done that before and a few people have dropped off and fallen asleep or whatever.
And we'll do it as a Q&A, because I've got some questions as well just to find out, how you did it, how it worked.
Okay.
Anything you've got you want to add that we don't ask, and add as well.
Okay.
So yeah, because I haven't actually spoke to you sort of personally about this. I just heard it through Terry. What I guess so you went. It's 2 exhibitions in total that you went to.
I've actually been to 3 now. The one I went to was the last December was the 3rd one I've been to.
So 3 in total so far.
Yeah.
It's not sort of a thing in your business that you do regularly because the strategy worked. Can you, I guess, walk us through over that time an overview of the results you got? I know we sort of said 30 plus meetings and 9K in revenue, but I had to tone down the results because it just seemed too ridiculous without hearing it from your mouth.
I think if I can just jump back a step and just to clarify something that Terry was saying, and I will answer your question, Drew.
Thank you.
If I look at my business, probably 85% of the work that I do is outside of the UK. And the majority of our clients are split pretty evenly between mainland Europe and North America. And to a certain extent, that's down to the industry in which I work in. I work in business to business food ingredients. Most of the clients, most of the major players in that sector are based outside of the UK. Not all of them, but the large majority of them are. And what Terry's saying is, to start going out and flitting all over the world is a very costly thing to do. And yes, you can build relationships virtually, but in terms of getting through to people, not everybody has the time to speak to you and they're busy. One of the beauties about going to the exhibitions that I've been to is that all of the major players and some of the sort of second and third tier players are in one location for a space of 3 days. And that's clients from the UK, from Europe, from North America, and a certain element of clients from Asia as well. So my audience, everybody that I want to speak to, is in one place. So in terms of maximizing my time for 4 days, which I take 4 days out of a week, I'm there with with clients, with hiring managers, with key decision makers who are exhibiting. One of the challenges with attending an exhibition like that is the reason the clients are exhibiting is because they're there to generate new customers. They don't necessarily want to be talking to me about recruitment. And one of the ways that we sort of work this year more so than the previous 2 years, the hotel that I stayed in was the closest hotel to the exhibition centre and was the main hotel where most of the exhibitors were staying. The knock-on impact of that is when I'd go down to breakfast and the breakfast room was packed, you'd end up sat at a table with somebody you'd never met before who was exhibiting at the exhibition. And so you get into dialogue with them, you start to build a relationship. Then you see them down there the next day and they say, well, we're off now. Do you want to walk up with us? So I think it's just that relationship building and the small talk you get around that. But in terms of the results, if I look, the first exhibition I went to in Paris, we had 18 meetings scheduled. The second one in Frankfurt, we had about 24. And the one I was been to in Paris, we'd booked 38 meetings. That's more than most recruiters will speak to in 6 months.
Yeah.
Those meetings range from, drop by the stand. If we're free, we'll grab a cup of coffee. We had set breakfast meetings, we had lunches, and I went out for dinner on two nights when I was in Paris in December with clients, with hiring managers, with business owners. In terms of the results that we generated, from the first exhibition, we picked up one client, and that client has subsequently generated in excess of £100,000 through 3 different roles. From the exhibition in Frankfurt, I picked up one client, but it wasn't until 6 months after the exhibition. That's been worth about £25,000. From the one I've just been to in Paris, we signed off at the end of December, a £40,000 project. I spoke with an existing client at that exhibition who we just finished a job for, got into conversation with him, and he took me to one side. He said, Mike, great job, really appreciate the effort you've done. The guy who heads up our sales for our US business is underperforming. Confidentially, we need to replace him. Can you undertake a search for us? We want to kick this off in Q1 next year. In round figures, that'll be worth 40,000. And somebody else that somebody I've spoken to on numerous occasions. We sat down, we had lunch. He's talking about restructuring his business, him moving out of the MD role into more of a strategic CEO role, and therefore looking to replace himself in his business so he can go do something else. Now, what I'm not saying is that those roles may or may not have come without me going to the exhibition. However, the fact that I was there, actually, the one role that we picked up at the first exhibition in Paris, it's a client, we've got another project on the go for them at the moment, that would not have come if I had not been to that exhibition, because I met with the MD and the HR director of a business, and the HR director's commenting was, Mike, I only do business with people I met with face to face.
Awesome.
His views changed on that since COVID, but back then, pre-COVID, and all this came around from, we were at the Sofitel in London in April 2019. And somebody there mentioned, I can't remember who it was, they'd been to an exhibition. And I said, oh, there's an exhibition in Paris. I'm not sure whether I should go or not. And Terry and everyone in the room said, yes, you have to go. And to be honest with you, the first one I didn't know what to expect. It was nerve-wracking. I was just like, God, what am I supposed to say to people? But you relax into it. And it's quite an informal way of meeting people, because you're not necessarily there to go and talk about recruitment. You're talking about how's the exhibition going, have you picked up any new clients, what's the market looking like, what's your new product pipeline for the next 6 to 12 months, and you're having these general business discussions with them, and then following up with them thereafter after the meeting. Does that answer your question, Drew? Yeah,
it does. Perfect. And another sort of question I had, and I do want to sort of dig into what you did at the exhibition itself and what you did before. But I think, again, speaking to Terry, one of the things that he mentioned to me was that when you went to the exhibition, although it might have been your first time meeting these people face to face and your first time speaking to them, a lot of them were aware of you and the company because of the work you've been doing in the background. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really surprised me when I was in Paris, and this is a massive exhibition over 3 exhibition halls with 1,700 exhibitors, with thousands of people wandering around. 4 people stopped me and said, "Hey, you're Mike Meyrick," and I'm thinking, "Who the hell are you?" It was just quite embarrassing. So, and that was just down to everything that we've been doing in terms of the content that we've been putting out on LinkedIn, the videos we've been putting out on LinkedIn. And so I think there was, from everybody who was there was an awareness of who I was and what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, just to add, I think that's very important. I think sometimes people listen to the interviews that we do about a particular strategy, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's exhibitions, whether it's calls, whatever, and they only sort of take away from it the strategy of the exhibition or the thing. But I think it's an important point to highlight that this only worked as well as it did because of the other work that you're doing in terms of building awareness in the market in of itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think if I just showed up there, nobody would have known who I was. And I think every time this say the third one we did in December last year, we built a whole marketing strategy and PR strategy around the fact that I was going to be there, and we got so much mileage and content out of that. So the work that we did pre-exhibition, during the exhibition, and the follow-up after the exhibition is the follow-up where the value really is.
Awesome. 100%. By the way, if you're listening and you've got any questions, put them in the chat box and then we'll come to you.
I just wanted to not ask, but share. We talk a lot about, your prospects have got to have a need, know you, like you, and trust you. And everything we do with our marketing is to identify the clients that have a need and get them to know you, like you, and trust you. I just think it was interesting, some of the figures that Mike was sharing where he's getting business. He said one client was worth 40,000, another one was worth 25,000. You're not going to get that kind of business from cold calling. You're not going to get retained business by just cold calling and begging for business. And it sort of endorses what we talk about. This face-to-face meeting with clients, they're going to be a lot more comfortable spending that kind of money with you. That was the first thing that struck me. The other thing that struck me was Mike did it the first time. I think it's fair to say, and you haven't told the story yet about the taxi strike and you riding on the back of a motorbike, but we'll share that for another time. But the first time, Mike didn't get it right, because you don't get this right first time. And Mike said he was nervous, and I suspect a bit clunky in how he went about things. And I think there's a lesson there for all of us, is that because you don't do something for the very first time and get it right first time. Sadly, life isn't like that. And you've got to get it wrong. You've got to have the experience of failures and the things that go wrong before you can get it right. And Mike's quite comfortable now. And the last exhibition, a bit later on, he's going to share with you some of the things he did, and in terms of marketing and PR, to let as many people as he knows know that he was going to be there. And the final thing, just to share, I went to an exhibition. It was a recruiters exhibition, and people came up to me. And the thing that I took away from it was, I kind of understand how celebrities feels, where you're walking around and people going, "Hi Terry, hi Mike, they know you, but you don't know them. I don't know if you found it, Mike, but it's quite uncomfortable and quite unsettling at some level, isn't it?
It is, but I also felt like a bit of a celebrity. I mean, this is what happens when Tom Cruise walks down the street. People say, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" And he's thinking, "Who are they?" It's like a bit Tom Cruise-like, really, you know.
Yeah. There is a resemblance, but anyway, let's move on, shall we?
So, I want to unpack like the things that you did to market yourself or to use the exhibition to market yourself. When was so 3 so far in total? When was the first one, roughly?
December 2019.
December 2019 was the first one. Okay, so talk to me about, I guess, leading up to that exhibition. Because I think if I remember rightly, a lot of the appointments came before you even got to exhibition. Is that correct?
I think with all of the exhibitions, all the appointments were booked before the exhibition.
Perfect. So the first one, talk to me about the marketing that you did there, because I think that's probably the one you was least prepared for. I think I remember talking to you and just send a 9-word email to start say, are you going or not?
We sent, we did a 9-word email to our list. Basically, are you going to the FIE this year? We then targeted all of the people who were exhibiting there, where I had contacts. We also, every time we've done it a lot better. That was about as much as we did for the first exhibition, and then I think we did a poll. We put some content out when I was there, and we did, let me know. I think that just LinkedIn post. Let me know if you would be at FIE this year. Be great to catch up. And I think what we did the last exhibition was accidental, but it worked even better, because what we did for the first 2 exhibitions, we were just targeting exhibitors. And the other thing that we did, we managed to acquire the exhibitor list and contacts of people prior to the exhibition, and everybody and there were lots of people on there who we weren't connected with, so they were then fed into a LinkedIn campaign saying, first LinkedIn message is great, or see your company's attending FIE this year, be great to catch up. So there was a lot of front end activity before we get there.
Awesome. Don, so you've got some questions in the chat box. Do you want to sort of put those to Mike?
Yeah, I'm curious about a great many things, actually. I've been to some of these in the past, and some of them, the big ones in my industry, JP Morgan and the Bio Conference, are not inexpensive ventures in terms of both the entry fees as well as the flights and hotel stays. So thousands of dollars in investment to attend the really, I guess, really big ones. So I'm curious about, backing up a little bit about how you decide you would actually go to. So we have in our industry the opportunity to go to really big ones, regional ones that are specific to maybe one discipline or another. And I'm curious about what were the factors that led you to conclude that these specific conferences that you attended were going to be worth your while?
I think one of the main thing is, if I look at my market, which is it's consistently being refined and narrowed down, where I've done a bit of CPG food, so consumer packaged goods in food, but where my real sort of expertise and my knowledge and my real interest is in the B2B ingredient sector. So these are companies who are selling raw materials to the likes of Nestle, to Mondelez, to Cadbury's, to Unilever. And so these are a lot of these are really large, big companies that the majority of the consumers have never heard of. And it was a case of, okay, where do these people, as Toby said, where do these people hang out? There's 3 key exhibitions. There's the one in Paris, well, there's one in Europe, alternates between Paris and Frankfurt. There's one in Las Vegas, and there's one in I think it's in Singapore. And that's all the exhibitors are B2B food ingredients providers. So that for me was the obvious choice. I've looked at other exhibitions where, you know, there's one I was looking at was the plant-based exhibition. Well, a lot of those people there are providers of finished goods. We've done some of that, but that's not really where our expertise is. So going to that, the ones that I've been to, they've been my ideal client profile in terms of audience. So that for me was a really clear, very easy decision to make. Yeah.
Okay. And so these were all exhibitions, as I understand it, that you attended versus maybe smaller to mid-sized companies going and pitching their wares to actual investors at the conference, or that is the main reason or idea behind the conference itself?
The idea, I guess, the exhibitors at the conference, their customers will be manufacturers of finished food products. And they're there to exhibit their products. They're unveiling new products, new innovations, whatever. So they're there to attract customers for them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. That's great. In terms of what else did I put up there? You know, so we've had the idea of paid for sponsorships. Did you, I take it in none of these cases, you actually sponsored a booth or something of that nature. Is that right?
I did consider it, but decided against it, because if I've got a booth there, all the people that I want to speak to are on other booths, if that makes sense. One of the things I'm toying with for this year's exhibition in Frankfurt is sponsoring something like, you get there and you get a lanyard with a card around your neck, you can sponsor that and have your company logo on that. And I'm looking into sponsorship opportunities just to get my name out there a bit more for this year. Whether that, I've then got to balance that off against the cost and what's the actual benefit of that. And yeah. I get, you do that, you get your name in the conference brochure. Is that tangibly, is that worth anything? How do you then measure any return on investment on that? And I don't know the answer to that yet, Don.
Yeah, it's something that's really hard to measure. I haven't done some of that in the past. If you figure out a good way to actually measure that, please share it. Then I guess the other questions were around there's just this idea of some of the events that I've attended have had a ratio of service providers to clients or prospects that are kind of out of whack. Some have been very good, in other words, mostly potential clients, but other ones you go to, I guess if there are 8-9 service providers for every one prospect, that can sometimes be problematic. I don't know what you saw at these conferences, but curious as to your thoughts or experience with that.
I think it was, if I look at the exhibition this year, there was, I think, about 1,500 exhibitors, ranging from, the big names in the industry to some small upcoming companies. But I'm not sure I could give you a distinct answer on that. I mean, if say the reason I went to this exhibition is because the profile of the businesses that were there fell very much into the criteria of the sort of customers that are sort of clients that I want to be working with. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can also just ask clients what meetings they tend to attend. That's good. What about you talked about, I think, and really touched on some of the pre-planning. At least I've got some notes on that, so that's really helpful. As far as the I guess the other thing I put down was the specific meetings versus I guess what I'm going to call ad hoc, meeting somebody at the bar. How so out of your the 30 meetings or whatever the number is, how many did you wind up like pre-planning going in versus kind of meeting people serendipitously, if you will?
the meetings, we had over 30 that were pre-planned. And that was, either, oh, drop by the stand and see us, or, oh, let's grab lunch. I know I'm free at 11 o'clock on this day, pop by and we'll grab a coffee, or we'll walk and get a baguette or something. But they were all pre-planned. And some of them were like literally 5-minute meetings. Some of them were an hour. Some of them were 20 minutes.
Right.
And so it was bloody exhausting, but it was worth it. And I think it's just also one of the things that I've seen is, since I've been doing this, there's a credibility building is part and parcel of this, is being in the, you talk about people know, like, and trust you. I think, know, like, and trust and have a need. We don't know when our clients are going to have a need. Might be today, might be tomorrow, might be 6 months down the line, might be 2 years down the line. You can't have any influence over that. What you can influence is whether they know and like you. The fact that you're putting out content on LinkedIn and wherever else, that's getting people to know you. They might not, they might like you, they might not, but they don't know because they never spoke to you or they've never met you. And so going to these exhibitions, it gives you people to get to know you. They meet with you, even if it's 5 minutes and you buy them a cup of coffee. They start to build that relationship and they start to like you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've got a question, Mike. I'll come back to you, Drew. Perhaps we can go around the room as well. I worked out you generated approximately 200,000
so far.
pounds. This is sorry.
So far.
So far, yeah, 200,000 from 3 exhibitions. So far, each exhibition is worth you about 60,000-70,000. What's your investment? Let's look at the costs: travel, hotel, your very expensive taste in the bar, your drinking in the bar. I mean, this is all going to add up.
I've worked, and again, I knew you were going to ask this, so I've worked it out. If I look at the total for flights, which are really relatively expensive, a hotel quite expensive because it was the major hotel where everybody else was stopping. Food, bar bill, taxis, duty free, very expensive scotch on the way back because it's tax deductible. It was around about £3,000 sterling
per event.
Per event. Plus, you add into that, I guess the cost of my time. And it basically, it's just Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So I flew out on the Monday and I flew back on the Friday. So you're basically taking a week out. I have never ever had, I don't think, 30 meetings in a week booked into my diary.
Yeah.
So I think it's £3,000, 30 meetings, ended up being more than 30, but in round figures, that's £100 a meeting.
Per meeting.
So round it up, say it's cost me £10,000 to go to 3 exhibitions. And what I can't remember, what was the figure you quoted?
Total amount is 205 so far.
Yeah, and I mean, there's more to come. The one client that we picked up on the first exhibition, I know there's another 2 roles there this year.
Yeah.
So £200,000, and it's cost me, say it's cost me £10,000. So if I said to you, Terry, give me £10,000, I'll give you £200,000 back.
Where do I start? Yeah.
You do that every day of the week.
Of course you would, yeah.
Yes, it's an investment, and it's the first one. It was like I was flying by the seat of my pants. I think I didn't know what I was doing, but now there's almost again it's almost an expectation that I will be at the next one. But I think there's And the other thing, again, we picked one of the projects we picked up at the end of December as a result of this. The shortlist that we're in the process of putting together, two of the people on that shortlist will be people that I met when I was in Paris.
Yeah,
You met candidates as well, yeah.
Yeah, who were, you know, chief commercial officer for a business, literally 5 minutes. You know, I've got his, here's your business card. It's got his mobile number on. Pick the phone up to him the early part of this week. Oh, great to meet Mike. What can I help you with? Well, looking at this project for one of my clients. Are you interested? Oh yeah, that sounds really interesting. So it just makes, you know, the big, you know, if you're working in a niche, the bigger you build your network in that niche, the easier your whole recruitment process comes.
Yeah.
We shortlisted a role at the end of, it was a role we did mid last year. Everybody on that shortlist and the guy who was eventually hired into the role was a first level connection who I'd spoke to previously. So working in that niche in a market gives it just makes your whole life easier, both from a business development and also from a recruitment point of view.
Awesome. So from the events that you've done so far, I guess what are some of the mistakes you've made that you do differently next time, and what are some of the things that worked really, really well that you'd recommend anyone who goes to an exhibition to make sure they do?
I think let me talk to the things that work really well, and particularly for the most recent one that we've done. And in fact, a part of this is to talk through the process of what we did pre-exhibition, if that makes sense. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
So the exhibition was in December. We started marketing in September. We ran a poll. Are you looking to attend FIE in Paris this year? Yes, no, not decided as yet. So that gave us, well, actually we ran three polls almost identical. So that started to build I think what I'm attending FIE in Paris this year. Be great to catch up. Will you be attending? Yes, no, not decided yet. So that started to build some traction. We then started to put out some posts. We then did a direct mail campaign. And the big thing that we did differently this year was what I've done every year previously. We've just targeted people who are exhibiting. When we were putting together our LinkedIn plan for this, we said, okay, we'll target US and Europe with a LinkedIn messaging campaign. So I think we got down to about 6,000 people in our LinkedIn audience at sea level within that sort of target client base. And rather than sending a message out to the exhibitors, the message went out to everybody, whether they were an exhibitor or not. I didn't know that was happening because the marketing guys were supposed to just target exhibitors. They targeted everybody. The upside of that was there were a lot of people who were going to the exhibition who weren't exhibiting because they went there to see their competitors, see what their competitors' stands look like, see what their competitors' new innovations were like. So there were several meetings that I had, probably 7 or 8 meetings with people who were not exhibiting, but were going to be at the exhibition anyway. And we did a series of messaging that went out over a period. This started in end of September, beginning of October. And the first message was like, hi, Drew, I'm going to be at FIE in Paris this year. It'd be great to meet up. Let me know if you're attending. So we got a certain level of response from that. Then the second message went out saying, just following on from that message was, oh, just wanted to bump this to the top of your inbox. Let me know you'll be at FIE this year. Then we got a certain level of response from that. And then we're at the same time we were getting email responses as well. And then there was another message that went out to everybody who had not responded, saying, "Oh, just planning." This went out at the beginning of November. Just planning my schedule for FIE. Let me know if you'll be there. It'd be great to meet up. And then another message went out a week after that. Not sure if you saw this. Just wanted to bump this to the top of your inbox. So it was a very structured, and we talked through what we were going to do. So it was very structured in terms of we're going to do the email marketing, we're going to do the LinkedIn chat, we're going to put some posts out, we're going to do some polls, we're going to do some posts, publicizing the fact that we were there. I was there. So we were getting a lot of, and again, the other thing, people say, "Oh, no, I'm not attending this year." What do you do with those? Leave them? Well, we thought, no, if they're not attending and they're in from the filtering that we did, in the target audience we want to do, we'll say, "Oh, sorry to hear that. Listen, it'd be great to jump on a call at some point. Let me know when you're free over the next couple of weeks, or here's my diary link." From the people that went, I've still got calls booked in my diary for the rest of this month and into February. There's probably another 40 calls from the people who weren't attending that we drove into the diary.
Awesome.
So the whole thing was, and again, I've already booked the flights to go to Frankfurt this year because they're cheap. What we're now already starting to talk about, what is our strategy for Frankfurt this year?
When is that? When is the Frankfurt exhibition? Right?
It's earlier this year. I think it's end of November. Yeah,
you've already booked the flights. Yeah, wow. Yeah,
because it's dirt cheap to book them that far in advance.
And how do this? Everybody's on here is wondering this, I'm sure. How do you decide which exhibitions to go for, or which are the ones that you're ignoring as well? Because there must be some that you're thinking, no, that's not right. So yeah, just curious on that, Mike.
Again, so is what I was saying to Don.
Oh, sorry, Don asked. My apologies. I must have missed that. I left the room. Yeah, I do apologise. Drew's just told me. Don has already asked that. Right.
So what about mistakes, Mike? What are some things that you did, and he was like that really didn't work, or you wish didn't do, or you could have cut out next time?
I think I think the one mistake that I made in the previous two was just marketing to the exhibitors. I think marketing to everybody in my target audience, whether they're going or not, whether they're exhibiting or not, that for me, that was the biggest takeaway from this year, because we generated so much more than we'd done in previous years. Other mistakes: don't stay up to the bar with clients until 1 o'clock in the morning because you feel shit the next day. I only did that on one night, but I suffered.
But seriously, did it not pay off in the long run?
Yeah, they're an existing client, and that was the client I met in Paris. We've had 3 pieces of business from. There's another one forthcoming. So yes, it will. I think to probably, I mean, it was seeing that many people, and again, the exhibition this year was over 3 halls, and what I hadn't done when we were booking the appointments was necessarily work on, on day 1, let's book everybody in hall 1, and day 2, book everybody in hall 2. So I'm here in day 1, I've got meetings in hall 1. Oh God, I've got to get across to hall 2. And then I got to get back to hall 1, then back to hall 3. It was just planning that logistics out. That I could have done better with, because that was just exhausting. And next year, I think I'd take an electric scooter or something, because that could make traveling around a lot easier.
Yeah. Mike, if I was there's people on this call now, what advice would you give them? They're sitting there thinking, yeah, I quite fancy this. What would be the steps or the advice you'd give to somebody that's never done this before?
I think it's, one, be very specific about the exhibitions you're going to, and make sure that the people you want to speak to are, you're in the right place with the right people. If there's an element of hesitancy about it, do what I did: book your flights in your hotel, then you've got to go. Because I booked the flights in the hotel and I still hadn't convinced myself I was going to go. But once you book your flights in the hotel, you've got an obligation to yourself not to waste the money. And to plan out from a marketing perspective what you do well in advance. Because the way and again, what we'll do this year will be, I'm sure, will be better than what we did last year, is to plan that out with precision and say, okay, how am I going to do? Who are my target audience? How am I going to market them? How am I going to let my target market know I'm going to be there? Is one thing. And then how am I going to get in front of the people in my target market when I'm there? It's from, you can, if I'd have just turned up to that exhibition, hadn't done any marketing, any planning, it would have been a waste of time. The fact that we had meetings booked, pre-booked, really made the huge difference. The marketing, the PR we did before and after, before, during and after. That was really well thought through this time, and worked really, really well.
Sometimes on LinkedIn and also on Facebook, you'll see people posting either videos or photographs from exhibitions. Was that something that you did? Hi, here we are at XYZ exhibition.
We did. I did it in Frankfurt. I did a daily video, which was really good. And I was taking a video, and some security guy came up and told me off because he's only official members of FIE can do videos. So I didn't do it, which was a pain. Frankfurt was fine. We put out a video every day.
Yeah, so you created like a video diary, but I suppose you could do something at the entrance or whatever if you wanted to do a. And did you? Sorry, go on.
That's what, again, part of the planning for next year is how to get more content out of that exhibition, how to get more collateral out of that exhibition.
Yeah. And the videos that you did you have potential clients or candidates, or was it just you in front of the camera?
It was just me. Because one of the things I'm thinking about doing this year is with people is doing like a 5-minute, and again, I don't think you just turn up on someone's stand and say, "Oh, I'd like to do a video of you and me talking." But if you say, "Listen, I'd like to do a little 5-minute intro when we're there," that is again something that we'll do this year, is plan that with a handful of people. So we're doing like this little video interaction. How that works from a technology point of view, I'm not sure yet, because I can't stand there with doing a selfie with somebody else with their face next to mine, because it's not going to work. But I think if it's planned properly, somehow I'll make it work.
Yeah. Excellent. Look, I'm going to come around the room and get a few, some thoughts and feedback of what Mike shared with him. Robert, I'm going to come to you first of all, Robert, and then I want to come to Robin.
Yeah, sure.
Next, your thoughts, observations.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to ask, so I'm not sure if you covered this earlier because I had to leave the room for a few minutes, but so do you notice the difference between exhibitions that you've gone to? Are they all the ones where there's a prepayment to attend, or I know there's some exhibitions where it's free to walk in? Have you done one or the other, or a bit of both, the ones that you've been to so far?
The first two I did were free. I had the free option for this one, but I paid, I think, £200 for a VIP pass, which meant I could get early entry, which was great because I could get around the stands before all the riffraff came in. And secondly, I had access to a VIP room with free coffee and biscuits and sandwiches, which I probably got more than £200 worth of coffee value out of that. So that again, it's such a small cost. To get in there and to go and chat to people before the hordes come in was worth more than £200.
Have you still found the free ones worth attending? Have they still been quite good for you?
Yeah,
I mean, big difference between the two?
They've all been valuable.
Okay. Yeah,
Mm.
that's good to know.
Have you got any exhibitions that you know of, Robert, that for your
Well, yeah,
mind?
funny enough, before I got your email, I was looking at one. It's a retail supply chain one in London. I went to two last year. Actually, I thought it was the summer, but it was actually last March. I went to one in Coventry at the Sky Dome, and I went to one in London as well a bit more recently, like end of last year. And I was exactly the same what you said, Mike, actually, with the nerves. I haven't really done much face-to-face interaction for the last 3 years. I was really rusty. And you're right about, when you approach a booth and then the face light up and then you say you're recruiting and the face just suddenly changes because they're there to meet your own customers. So I was just thinking about the tact and how to make it a bit more beneficial. What you're saying about the pre-planning is really correct as well, because the one I went to in Coventry was good, but it was very small. So, and I didn't do any marketing beforehand. It was a little bit spontaneous. And the one in London as well is a lot bigger, but sort of less quality. Both are free to get into. So I think you're absolutely right what you're saying about the planning and the marketing and basically doing your homework before you invest. For me, it was like a kind of 1 to 2 hour drive away. But yeah, but I have got my eyes on exhibitions for this year. I think they're like you say, one's under the same roof. So yeah, I think it's a great investment. But you've got to get it right, haven't you? It's quite easy to make the wrong move if you don't do your homework. I think about which one you go to. Yeah,
I think for me that's the planning is key. And also just making sure that you're at the right exhibition with the right people.
Yeah,
and that's going to vary. I guess depends what sector and what industry you're working in. It's and I think for me, having narrowed my niche just to B2B ingredients has been beneficial in many different respects.
Excellent. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks.
Robin, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Robin. Yeah, your thoughts, questions?
Yeah, so I love this subject. I come from an events background. So my previous life was an event planner and sourcing manager for American Express, and planning like 700 people conferences, and from buses to hotel rooms to muffins to coffees, everything. So I love conferences, and I feel like I'm always trying to convince Max to let me go to something, and it worked. I'm going to Boston in April for TechCrunch early stage. So it's just a 1-day event, which I went to one similar for the space industry in LA. So, this is a 6-hour flight to the other side of the country. So I'm really excited to be there because I think we're going to be in front of the right people, whereas the LA conference, the space industry, it's a little out there, not how do I describe what the attendees were like? It just wasn't quite our target audience. So I'm excited to be going to that, but I want to plan some more. And I think one of the poll questions that Mike had mentioned, are you going to this conference? I wonder, it's kind of harder to get people to comment in a poll, but do you think that there'd be success in saying, what conferences are you attending this year? Or like, what conferences are best for networking? Wanted to ask my network and just put it out there. Or would that be maybe a message individually?
No, I think do both. I mean, I'm attending TechCrunch in Boston this year. Are you going to be there? Yes, no, and then maybe do another poll. Looking at attending some exhibitions this year, and then list maybe 3 or 4. Which do you recommend? Which ones do you recommend? And list 3 or 4. So you got a couple of polls out there. I think for me, the direct messaging was absolutely key to what direct messaging and emailing was absolutely key to what we did.
Thank you.
So, Robin, have you got a list of the delegates attending, or can you get access to it? Yeah.
Yeah, they have they do a really good job at putting access to like an app where you can request individual meetings, get to their LinkedIn's. So as soon as I get access, I will be doing that.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Robin. Excellent. Steve, I'm going to come to you next for your thoughts, and then Chris. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. So for me, it's really just kind of learning about this. I can't even think of the last time I was at any type of conference or event or trade show, probably long before I was in this industry. One of the things that I've kind of committed myself to this year is trying to get out and see clients face to face again, trying to get a lunch a week with an existing client or someone I haven't done business with. But you know, I did get invited to a trade show in December that was around the financial industry, but when I started looking at the attendees, it really wasn't the type of clients that I wanted. So I did not wind up attending. But you know, I guess I have to just kind of, what this makes me do is just think about what shows I should be attending, or try and do some research on what shows would make sense for the type of clients that I want, and figure out what I want to do, and try and you know, get to one or two shows. There's the US, there's so many trade shows here every year, so many events, conferences, that you know, there's a lot of stuff that's either that's easily reachable from the West Coast here. You know, stuff in the West Coast, even in the Midwest, is not that hard. Going across the country to Boston, like Robin's doing, is very, very brave for the first one. So I respect that. But you know, it's just kind of really, today's really about learning for me, and just kind of what you did, and the things to, you know, in the past when I've gone to trade shows, I just kind of showed up and saw what happened. You know, now obviously I understand how important the planning piece is with it before you go.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's my big takeaway: planning beforehand, and getting those meetings, or coffees or breakfast or lunch or whatever they are, in the diary. And you know, even if Mike said, if you're just walking along and spending 5 minutes with somebody, it could pay dividends longer term. But you do have to plan it. That's my big takeaway. Thanks for that, Steve. Chris.
My pleasure.
Chris, your thoughts?
There we go. Hey guys.
Hi,
Sorry,
Billy.
I'm off camera today. I've got a home remodel commencing, so I'm out of my office. But this is a great subject for me. I've been to many conferences over the years. I've been a recruiter for a long time before LinkedIn, and just an interesting, kind of funny thing. The way that I used to get contacts is going to these conferences, and everybody would have business cards laying out on their tables, and I would go and I would take every business card I could, and that's how I got my contacts. And then, of course, trying to speak with people. But I wanted to reiterate that, Mike, what you did is absolutely spot on, with starting to market yourself and get meetings well ahead of the event is instrumental to your success. If you just show up, yeah, you may have some success, but if you can get as many preset meetings as possible, that will be the way that you can really make this valuable. So I urge everyone to do this, because meeting face to face is really the best way that you can bond and make relationships with people, especially in those events that they have. They usually have, like, you know, fun things for people to do and network. Really get involved in those. They can be way more valuable than, you know, just, you know, your kind of formal meetings. People, you know, having a couple drinks, they let their guard down. They're, you know, they get to know you. You're spending more quality time with people. I found that those were often the most lucrative points in the conference for me.
So do you have conferences or exhibitions lined up for this year, Chris?
No, I don't. But I think it's about time to get back into it. COVID is pretty much over. So yeah, I think that I need to look into it. The conference that I used to attend quite frequently was the Health Information Management Systems Society event, which is usually held in the spring. So it's still not too late to book that and see where it is. It's gotten so big that they only hold it at a few different events. So usually it's Orlando.
Right, right, excellent. Yeah, sounds like you've attended a few in the past, Chris. So you kind of know your way around it. It is that pre-planning. Don, anything you want to add or share or ask?
Well, maybe an idea. I think this is a great overview, and I've written a number of things down. And I usually go to several different regional conferences. The cost of the big ones in our industry tend to be $4,000 or $5,000 entrance fee. So it's a little bit different in terms of how much the overall cost is. Still 20 times rate of return that Mike said earlier does make you think. I think the one thing that I just point out, Mike, to you and well, to really everybody else that's going forward, something you said about the video and the video aspect, maybe that Terry mentioned. I've seen this done before at conferences. It's usually either a media organization, but now you've got me kind of the thought stirring. The idea would be to try to interview, 3 to 5 thought leaders in your industry while you're at the conference. Now that would require, of course, probably some formal video or audio equipment, but I kind of started thinking, well, I wonder if you in Frankfurt could find a company that would come to the site, wherever the site was at, for a day, and you could interview, and in particular, maybe 3 to 5 people that you've had more difficulty getting a hold of through other means even. So I was just thinking about how something like that might work, and by virtue of the fact that you're the one that's interviewing a key opinion leader in your industry and having this professionally recorded and then posted back up on LinkedIn and other channels, I think that could I've seen those before. I've never done one, but I think that could be a very interesting idea.
Really good idea.
Excellent idea.
That's what last week when Russell was talking about his podcast, that's some of the things he'll be doing with some of his guys. I would take Russell up to Frankfurt.
Russell to Frankfurt.
Yeah, just follow me around with a video recorder.
I think it's a great idea, and
it is.
We talked previously about the benefit of, it's called celebrity marketing. If you're seen with an expert, be it on the film or recording or whatever, it enhances your own credibility. So yeah, it's a great idea, and it's great content then as well for the platforms. Yeah, excellent idea, Don. Excellent. Anybody else got any questions? Have you got any other questions? We're going to wrap up. So if you've got any questions, please, for Mike, please let us know. Look, I say this all the time, but one of the things I would encourage you all to do is just do some research as to the exhibitions in your market, the conferences that you could attend in your market. I'm not for a moment suggesting that you attend them all, but it would certainly be worth doing some research on maybe the top 3 that you should be attending this year. You've seen the results from Mike, 3 exhibitions. So far cash collected is 200,000. Why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it indeed? And but it does take you taking action, and the big takeaway here is, and then doing some prep. It's not a case of just attending. I must confess, that's what I've done previously, is attended conferences or exhibitions with no prep whatsoever and wandered around and pressed the flesh, as they call it in the UK. Well, there's clearly better ways to do it that get a much better return. Mike, thank you ever so much for sharing that with us. That's a real eye-opener. Thank you very much indeed.
Nice.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, for joining us today. Just to remind you, we're back tomorrow at 3 o'clock UK time for the weekly roundup. Until next time, folks, take care, take action, be relentless. Cheers, folks.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.